All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Thursday, February 19th, right here on your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson. This is All in Horns, and we're having a good time off air. I did hit the record button, and so that conversation officially has to end because Jake was being very rude to me before I hit record, and so now we're going to be best of friends on air. And then as soon as this episode's done recording, we will go back to our uncivil ways towards one another. We have a great episode for the people today. We're going to talk a little Four Nations NHL hockey and how the NHL has figured out a system, finally, a system that works. We're totally reliant on the players buying in, though, of an all-star break code cracking system that have audience members engaged, players engaged, and the nation's attention for an all-star weekend. KD, Kevin Durant, the one and only, returning to Austin in his Phoenix Suns Austin debut, playing against the San Antonio Spurs, actually later tonight. And we'll have a discussion about that. And then also baseball, the baseball home opener against Houston was canceled due to the horrendous weather that we are experiencing here in Texas that got pushed down from Kansas City to us. So thanks, Jake, for that.
Just
Appreciate
a little
that.
taste of what I did.
You're such a big baby.
At Sam's
You're
Club
such a big
sample.
baby.
As Sam's Club sample of what we get up here.
Jake,
you're texting me like, oh, it's 20 degrees out. I'm like, it's 0 degrees here. The wind chill minus
feels
20.
like zero. Feels like zero.
Feels like the actual temperature in Kansas City, which feels like minus 20.
Well, I'm sorry you live up north, you Yankee Doodle Dandy. Get back to Texas.
If people knew what I had to deal with, not only doing this podcast from you, but that I've dealt with for 20 some years of being best friends with you, that I've dealt with my whole life. I deserve some type of
getting
award.
You on this podcast. I was invited to do this podcast.
I deserve a medal.
The first thing I did was reach out to them and say, I will do it under one condition, and that's to get my buddy Jake on air with me. And they said, fine, we'll bend the rules for you, Tanner, since you're the talent here.
Oh boy. I have nothing safe for podcasts to say currently to you. I have things to say when we hit the end button.
They said you're the golden child, so sure, you can get your wish, LeBron. If you want Luka, you can get Luka. That's fine. But yeah, baseball. We'll talk a little baseball, and then we'll talk just briefly on just the fact that there's a lack of really anything going on this week for Texas sports, whether that be cancellations of baseball, whether that be basketballs being not canceled, but on their bye week for both women's and men's. Men do play this Saturday, but not currently today or yesterday. They didn't play this week. And so, but some other games going around Wednesday night, we can kind of touch on a little bit. Some surprising starts to those games. But as we're recording this, those games are still going on. And so we'll keep you posted and maybe give a breakdown of if those games end in a surprising fashion in a little bit. But Jake, let's start off with some Four Nations hockey. NHL talk. I know you've been kind of itching to talk about this. I've been just as much into it as you have been, but I think the NHL cracked the code of the bad all-star weekends that we've been seeing nationally across all sports, not just basketball, not just football, not just baseball, but all sports have been struggling to figure out an algorithm, an equation of a good, entertaining all-star weekend. It seems like the NHL has cracked that code.
And the funny thing about it is no other sport will be able to copy it.
Nope.
Because part of it is buy-in from
baseball.
players. Maybe baseball. I think baseball players would buy in. I don't think NBA players would buy in. They don't even buy into the NBA.
They don't play. They don't buy into the teams they actually play for.
Yeah, I mean they buy in the playoffs, and that's about it. The regular season
like second round conference finals.
But even if you're not a big hockey fan, this Four Nations has been a must watch because you had pretty even teams. I mean, Sweden took Canada to overtime, beat the U.S. They lost to Finland. Finland kind of got beat down badly by Canada and USA, but Finland also had a bunch of their key guys get hurt
Jake,
on their NHL
explain
team.
to the people what the Four Nations is in case anybody.
Yeah. So we'll start. So Four Nations, you got four nations in it. You got Finland, Sweden, USA, and Canada. And it basically, instead of the NHL All-Star Week, this is what they decide to go with. And so every nation gets their players, and then you do a round robin.
It's players that play in the NHL.
Yes.
That are from those countries.
Yes. Only NHL players. And that play from those nations, and then they do a round robin against each other. Top two teams play for the championship. First time it's been done. It has been a enormous success. It's kind of taken over social media when these games have been going on.
It's done during the perfect time too, Jake, because in terms of the national sports world spectrum of news right now, we're kind of in a dead period. So it's kind of the perfect time for this to be happening.
And you had the buy-in from the fans. You had the buy-in from the play. I mean, this is playoff level hockey being played. I mean, the intensity, obviously everyone knows the fights that happened, right? Literally puck drop, gloves dropped. And then USA and Canada were duking it out on the ice.
3 fights in the first 9 seconds of the game.
Yeah. And, you have the Canada fans booing the national anthem. Oh, Canada is going to get booed into oblivion tomorrow in Boston. And I mean, this is
tonight
in Boston. And I mean, I'm giddy. I'm like, pumped for this game. And if a USA loses, I'll be pretty sad. I mean, it'll be like one of my teams losing a big game.
It's been really fun to see the players buy in. That for me is the biggest thing. And the players saying, this is the biggest game of my career. This isn't even an international Olympic game that goes really on record in terms of nationally. These are kind of friendlies, if you will.
You know the get-in price for the game Thursday, $800.
That's awesome. I mean, that's awesome.
And do you want to know the betting line? -110 USA, -110 Canada.
Wow. Nice.
I mean, this is.
And for people who may not be big hockey fans, here are just some names that are going to be playing in this championship game. You've got Sidney Crosby. You've got Connor McDavid. You've got Jake Ottinger from the Dallas Stars for anybody local.
Austin Matthews.
You've got Austin Matthews playing. You've got who's the other Mick for the Canada team? McCaskey, is that his name?
There's a lot of mix.
Yeah, I know. They all have the same name, it feels like.
It's loaded from the both rosters. Just go look up both rosters and you'll recognize just about every name. Of course, the Tkachuks for USA. I'm not sure. I think one of them or both of them might be out for the championship. I need to look at what the roster for the championship is going to be, who's in, who's out. USA's had some injuries, but
that goes to show you how hard these guys are playing. Is that they're getting injured playing in this round robin.
Just watch the games. They're diving, they're blocking pucks like it's the playoffs. And blocking a slap shot looks like one of the things you have to have the biggest balls for in all of sports.
Yeah.
To get in front of a 80 to 100 plus mile per hour slap shot of a hockey puck that is hard as hell and is letting it hit you to block it. I mean, in playoffs, I'm always amazed at the level of buy-in these players have to have, the injuries they play through. And now you're getting it in a mid-season tournament that everyone is taking like the Olympics. I mean, and it's because hockey players are, first off, they're some of the most competitive athletes on the country as far as just they want to win in everything. I was texting you about it earlier today, but I was watching the Bob Does Sports against the Spit and Chicklets golf match on YouTube. And Ryan Whitney, who's a former NHL player on Spit and Chicklets, now the podcast from Barstool, he is dialed in. He is just taking that seriously. There's so much crap talk going on, and he's like that in everything. And all hockey players are like that.
It's not just a recreational thing that they're doing. They're competitive in everything that they do, like you said. But now they've got the nation's pride. They're wearing their nation's colors, and they're wearing the flag on their jerseys, and it's a pride thing that is now taken over. And like you said, I don't know if any other sport can replicate it. You could do something similar and do USA versus international in the NBA, but I don't think the buy-in would be
The
there.
players aren't going to care.
You would have to have players that actually want to play in that game, and that's not going to happen. And
and actually want to win.
Right. And it would just be, again, a walkthrough YMCA, chuck up mid-range or mid-court shots, see if they go in, giggle, laugh with each other, high-five each other on the way down the court. That's what it would look like in the NBA. Possibly baseball. Baseball's the only other one that could possibly do kind of a round-robin tournament, different countries. You could get, Japan, you could get USA, you could get the Dominican Republic, you could get a bunch of different countries from the MLB to probably form four squads, I would think. Even if you've got to kind of, make an international team where it's just kind of the leftovers. But yeah, you could probably do something similar in baseball. Again, what's the buy-in at that point? Who's sitting out? Who's pitching? I think there's other kind of things that
I think there's a decent chance you could get baseball players to buy in.
Yeah.
I don't. The NFL, it's obviously not possible. I actually think you could maybe get player. The tough thing with football is just it's at the end of the season, and a lot of them are going to be banged up.
So they're going for vacation.
And football isn't possible just because of everyone's US for the most part, 90-something%.
And that's perfectly fine for me. For football, I think to solve this is you just do away with flag football, do away with playing an actual football game. Just do a skills competition. Just do the longest throw. Just do, like we saw back in the early 2000s where you had Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and some of the big name guys. Get a guy like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, just to see who can throw the ball the furthest. Get the strongest arms in the NFL, who can throw the ball the furthest. And,
I do a Madden tournament, stream it on Twitch and let them go unfiltered.
And maybe that would be, maybe that's something that but it's become such a joke now to where it's not even, don't even call it an all-star game or a Pro Bowl. Give them the title of, hey, you made the Pro Bowl. Congratulations, but we're not going to play this game. Like, it's just a title at this point for these players. And so, but anyway, the NHL, they cracked the code, man. They figured it out.
It's amazing. I mean, I haven't been this excited about any sporting event at this time, this little 2-week stretch where kind of ready for college basketball to hit March Madness. NBA is not going on and just not important right now. And
baseball hasn't started up.
Baseball hasn't really started. College baseball's getting going, but like Texas playing Dartmouth.
Yeah.
I'm not like over the moon excited to watch them play.
And we're all kind of in that post-football depression stage.
Yeah, post-football depression. And this is just like lifted me because I've watched every game. I have watched every game, not just the USA games, all of them, because they've all been awesome. Getting Freebird played after they score is awesome. And
apparently that started in kind of their junior leagues, like their under 20 teams. And some of the guys that were on those teams that are now on this current USA team have kind of brought that tradition into play. And it's kind of just taken a life of its own.
Which last thing I'll say on this, because I could go on a whole, I love hockey. First off, when I lived in Dallas 6-7 years ago, I started going to Stars games, and hockey just became one of my sports I love the most. And the under 20 right now for the USA is on a win streak against Canada for like the first time maybe ever.
Yeah.
And so hockey in the United States, just as far as people playing it, is growing. I know the amount of kids playing it in Texas, especially in like the Dallas and Austin and the big city areas, has grown exponentially over the last 5 to 10 years. And so the sport is really growing in the States, and it's starting to show because US used to never be able to compete with Canada. And now they're starting to at every single level, every single age group of hockey. And if they can win the championship on Thursday, it would be a big deal for the Team USA. And it's going to be an electric environment. I mean, $800 get-in price, even odds on both teams to win. Only a 5.5 over/under on the goal line as well. Goals scored, which is really low. I mean, typically an all-star game would be like 10.5.
Yeah.
And so that just shows, and just go back and look at some of the highlights and watch the team who loses, watch the players after. Yeah, I mean, it looks like they lost the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah. No, I mean, in some of their post game, I mean, even some of the Canada players were just like, man, we let our country down. We can't believe we played that way against the U.S. We deserve, the fans deserve more out of us, and they're going to get that come Thursday. That was just a round robin game. It's a championship game coming up, and we'll take care of business. Like, these guys are fully bought in, and some of the USA players are like, this is the biggest game I've ever played in. This is like for some of the players who haven't had a long NHL career and have gone into the Stanley Cup Finals or played in the playoffs or a Game 7. You know, they're like, this feels like a Game 7 of a playoff series to get to the Stanley Cup or to win a Stanley Cup. Like, it just means that much to some of these players, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a home run by the NHL because it's captured. Not only has it captured all the NHL fans, it's captured non-NHL fans.
Right.
It's captured non-hockey fans. They have somehow made the viewership even better. And they're already doing okay in viewership.
Wasn't the viewership the most watched hockey game in America since, I don't know, it's been a long time. I mean,
yeah, I'd have to go back and look at the exact stat, but it was a crazy high viewership. And Thursday,
it was like 15 million or something, and they're expecting it to be upwards to like 20 million on Thursday or tonight.
It's going to be incredible tonight. The viewership for it, social media during it, it's going to be an awesome night. And whoever loses, the crap talk on social media, the players. I mean, this could be bragging rights for the players on the ice.
We've got President
NHL
Trump
moving forward.
President Trump's calling them the 51st state of America right now. You know, I mean,
which might have had a little something to do with the anthem getting booed, but it doesn't matter. Oh, Canada's getting booed. No way it doesn't.
And it's good for sports, people. It's good for sports. You can boo the national anthem. You can boo the national anthem. Just expect to get your ass kicked afterwards. So at your own risk, do it. That's fine. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. Just expect to get your ass beat after you do it. And that's perfectly acceptable, in my opinion. I think rivalry, a little bit of hatred in sports is a good thing.
Yeah. The NBA sure as hell could use it. And even the NFL could use it a little bit. There's still rivalry in the NFL. And I do think it's still a healthy, competitive league. Like, people are bought in on winning.
Right.
But like, even it could use it a little bit more. And the NHL's already good with that, but the players' personalities are really coming out in this. And we've spent a long time on it, and it's hockey, but it's just, it feels like a unique sporting event, and something, this first tournament of it is going to be remembered for decades to come, I think, because the games have also been incredible.
And apparently, this will be the last thing we talk about, and then we'll move on because we need to, but apparently they're going to do kind of the World Cup of hockey every 4 years, and they're going to break it up with this tournament and every 4 years, but do it every 2 years. So you got the Olympics, and then 2 years go by. You've got the Four Nations. 2 years, you got the Olympics.
Which next year we have the Olympics, which I am very excited about.
And so it seems like this is going to continue and continue to be a trend, and they'll break it up, every other year, and that'll be really nice.
There's no way they don't, with the success that it has been.
But I don't want them
not
to do
the last one we'll
see. I like the fact of them breaking it up. I don't want them to do it.
You have to, otherwise the appeal from the fans will get less. Cool. Also, I think it's a bit much to ask the players to do this every year, because if you're going to ask the players to buy in what normally is a relaxed week for them, I don't think it's fair to do that to them every single year.
Agreed. Jake, let's go ahead and move it along. In Austin, Kevin Durant is making his return, and he will be playing in the Moody Center. It's kind of exciting stuff. He'll be playing against the San Antonio Spurs. Now, the Spurs have played in the Moody Center a couple of times prior to this. This isn't the first time that they've played in Austin. They're trying to bring San Antonio and Austin together. San Antonio fans, whenever I lived in San Antonio, weren't huge fans of their team playing in Austin, because they think that Austin's trying to poach the Spurs away from San Antonio. Do you think that there will eventually be, well, first off, let me get your take. Is it cool for us Longhorn fans to see Kevin Durant playing in Austin again on Texas Longhorns court? Second of all, is it something that the NBA is maybe trying to foreshadow a little bit and saying maybe we can bring a team to Austin or move a current team to Austin.
It better not be the Spurs. I mean, I talk a lot of smack on the NBA, but I've been a Spurs fan my whole life, and I did used to watch every game. As obviously they were really good growing up, that helped, but still, I would be furious if they moved out of San Antonio, just because that fan base is as passionate as they come.
Yeah,
and
that's all they have in San Antonio.
And San Antonio might not be the biggest market, but it's not. I mean, it's not like it's.
There's no NFL team. The biggest college university they have is UTSA, so they don't have a great college program that they can lean on. They don't have, baseball or anything like that. They've got basketball, and they've got a very good, prestigious, historically good, great basketball franchise in their own backyard that they can call their own. I think it would be a huge disservice to the fan base of San Antonio.
Move the Mavericks.
Move the
if
Mavericks.
Anything right now.
I
mean, that fan base is rightfully done. Nothing they have said since the trade has made that better, by the way.
No,
just a little check-in.
Way worse.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's cool for to have Kevin Durant play back in the Moody Center. That's cool. But I don't like the Spurs getting home games taken away from them to play in Austin. And I hate the idea of them getting moved to Austin. I do think it'd be cool for the Austin to have an NBA team, but it should be an expansion team, or they should move one of the another team. I don't care really who, just not the Spurs.
I really don't think it could be Houston either. I don't think the Rockets could move.
No, I mean, I don't think you can move any of the 3 Texas teams.
You would just have to build upon and have 4 Texas teams if you're going to have an Austin team.
Yeah, and at that point, is it worth it? I mean, I feel like you're oversaturating the state of Texas.
Yeah.
And so I mean, maybe the NBA is just kind of testing it out. But yeah, I mean, I would be pissed if the Spurs guy. I'd still be a Spurs fan, but I would be mad just because it is San Antonio, the Riverwalk, like that.
I also think
everything that goes to it is San Antonio Spurs.
I think it would be more so the NBA moving them rather than the franchise. I don't think it would be some stab in the back from the franchise deciding to move. I think it would be,
and the NBA shouldn't have the power to do that. When it's not a failing. They aren't the Arizona Coyotes from the NHL.
Right.
This is not a failing franchise. Their history is in San Antonio. Their championship parades have been on the Riverwalk. Like you just don't get rid of that.
Well, they're one of the oldest teams, even going back to the ABA.
Yeah,
I mean, they were a merger team.
You can't move them, and just the fact that there's talk of it and that they've played them in Austin. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it. It's cool having Kevin Durant back there, but I can't get over I don't like the Spurs getting put there at all.
Will you tune in a little bit? I know it'll kind of be 4 Nations, USA, Canada time frame.
Yeah, I mean during the intermissions, I'll tune. I would tune in and watch the whole thing, but the 4 Nations is too special this year. But I will tune in during like the intermissions.
I want to see. I want to see KD hit the court and just kind of.
Yeah, I want to see I want to see some of it. It's just I'm also not going to miss any of the USA Canada game. Yeah. I'm just not. It's too big of a deal. With how it's all shaped up with what we just spent 18 minutes or 20 minutes talking about it for.
Well, that's because we don't have much else to talk about. Baseball home opener versus Houston Tuesday night got canceled due to the weather, Jake. Also, the softball game last night, Wednesday, got canceled as the softball team was preparing to take on Akron in Austin. And now Friday, Saturday, looking at the forecast, doesn't look to be too much better. Maybe not as wet, but doesn't look to be any warmer. Friday and Saturday, as the baseball team starts their series against Dartmouth. That series could be in jeopardy, and they might only be able to fit in Sunday's game. It's a 3-game series, but who knows what's going to happen Friday, Saturday. Obviously, nothing has been, decided yet. But that's just some news that we were planning on talking about Texas, Houston, and that obviously could not have happened. So,
yeah, it's made what is again, if we didn't have the 4 Nations things, this episode would have been like 12 minutes. Just because, if that, because there's just there's no basketball to talk about that we haven't already talked about last week.
And of all teams, Texas basketball is getting prepared to take on South Carolina, the mighty Gamecocks, who are winless and
yeah, which is one of those games. The prep for that, not to get ahead of ourselves here, but I can tell you what our preparation episode for that game is going to be. You better freaking win.
Yeah, that's about it.
And then that's it.
About it.
There's your warm up for Texas, South Carolina. You'll get it again here in a couple days.
But all right, Jake, that is going to do it for our episode, though. We are looking forward to more baseball, though. We're going to do our absolute best. Our conversation with Hardball Harge was great, and he gives great insight. Again, he interviews Coach Schlossnagle Thursdays at 8 a.m. On 1300 The Zone. Jake and I are going to be trying to tune into that as much as we possibly can to just try to get some sort of feel for where this program is. And so as we continue going on, obviously very early stages of the season, we're excited for the season. We were planning on talking a little. Breaking news.
We got breaking news. Literally just popped up on my timeline. Texas expected to hire West Virginia running back coach Chad Scott to replace the departed Tashard Choice. Sources tell On Texas Football. On Texas Football did tweet this out. We aren't stealing from their paywall or anything like that. And yeah, so that has been reported. That'll be something that we'll look into and give more thoughts on the hire. Yeah. I tend to just lean towards trusting Sark currently.
The West Virginia running backs coach. Is that what you said?
Yes. Chad Scott.
Chad Scott. Okay, cool. Well, welcome aboard. Texas set to hire West Virginia's Chad Scott as next running back coach. Yep, that is from On3. Seeing it on Sports Illustrated, seeing it on Longhorn Wire. It is going across the web right now as we speak on this hire. So cool. I mean, he seems like a young guy. He seems like he kind of knows what he's doing. I haven't looked into anything of what he's done, but
just initial things on him. He's been at West Virginia since 2019, so he was the only coach kept whenever Rodriguez came in. Mm-hmm. And brought his new staff. He was the only coach kept, which tells you probably quite a bit about what people think of him.
He was a first-round pick in 1997 to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
There we go. So that'll be we'll have to get, we'll compile more information as it comes out. But again, I tend to trust Steve Sarkisian when it comes to these hires and immediately assume that it's sorry about that. I hit my camera. Tend to think that it's probably a pretty good hire, but we'll dive more into it, kind of see where his pipelines are going to be recruiting and that type of stuff.
Well, hey, but that's pretty cool news. I'm glad that broke while we were on air. That rarely happens that way. So very cool stuff. All right, well, that is going to do it for today's episode. Again, please like, share, and subscribe. We drop these episodes Tuesday through Saturday at noon. Each and every single day. And this is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson. You've been listening to All In Horns. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
All In Sports Network. We love sports.